Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Sloan. I'm VP of Cybersecurity Advocacy at Zscaler, and you're listening to CXO Voices, where we deliver all you need to know about zero trust and digital transformation, from change management best practices to network and cybersecurity modernization, and everything in between. Now, today I'll be talking to two experts from a 77-year-old company that I expect many of you may not be familiar with. Leonardo is an Italian multinational defense company headquartered in Rome, which has 129 sites around the world, over 60,000 employees, and annual revenues in excess of 18 billion euros. Its key business areas include electronics, helicopters, aircraft, cyber and security, space, and uncrewed systems. In short, massive amounts of intellectual property and other sensitive data, the loss of which would have significant national security implications. Innovation, continuous research, digitalization, and sustainability are the pillars of its business worldwide. So let's bring in my guests in. I'm joined today by Gareth Hetheridge and Sam Grossick. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Gareth has spent his career in defence. He was a Royal Air Force pilot in fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters. He spent 10 years with Rolls-Royce. That's a defence company, not the car manufacturer. And assumed the role of CIO at Leonardo UK and Director of Digital Solutions in late 2021. Gareth continued in the Army Reserves also through until the end of last year. Gareth, just going back to your time in the RAF, can you give us a flavour of the different types of aircraft that you've flown over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I left university, joined the RAF, went through the flying training pipeline, and then left in 2010. So I think we're going to touch on that right at the end of the podcast as well, about that part of the journey.
Yeah, great. Sam Grossick. Sam is Leonardo's head of cloud operations. It's a role he took after time served as the company's enterprise architect. He's been with the company since 2020 after completing his degree in computer systems at Edinburgh's Heriot-Watt University. Now, Sam, you mentioned before we started that you're still based in Edinburgh, and the site that you work at has been around longer as a defence company site than Leonardo has itself. Can you give us a little flavour of the history and what's manufactured on the site now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a long and varied history, the site in Edinburgh, and depending who you speak to locally, you'll know it by different names. It's been Ferranti, Marconi, BAE Systems, GEC. It's been a number of iterations over the years before we've ended up as Leonardo. But predominantly at the Edinburgh site, we manufacture radars, targeting systems, avionics and sensors.
And they'll be shipped out to governments around the world, I imagine.
Indeed, yeah. We work closely with our defence partner network in the UK to support a number of strategic platforms such as Eurofighter and the upcoming GCAP programme.
Well, let's get down to business a little. Gareth, maybe I could start by asking you to give us an overview of the IT operations at Leonardo so we can appreciate the scale of the business, and perhaps you could outline some of the key IT and cybersecurity challenges the company faces.
Absolutely. I mean, if I start with Leonardo at the moment and the context within defence, because I think it's an incredibly interesting time for defence, certainly. And you only need to look in the news articles on a daily basis to see how important the security is at the moment and defence, and we play a huge part in that. We're seeing increased spending in the UK as a percentage of GDP over the coming years. We're seeing a significant change in government with defence reform coming in as well, and really a growth across the European nations in making sure what we call our capacity boost programs. So ensuring that we are delivering more capability quicker than we ever have done before, in order to ensure that we are protecting each of our sovereign nations and really enabling the freedoms that you and I take for granted on a daily basis. For that to happen, our UK forces do an incredible job on a daily basis, be that air, land, sea, and subsea as well. But within that, Leonardo provides a number of high-tech capabilities, be it in electronics, our sensing capability and our radar capability is incredibly important. In helicopters, providing a number of different platforms, be it the Wildcat or the Merlin platform, across our helicopters domain, and then in cyber and space as well, a huge utility in those areas as well. So I think Leonardo UK has a really interesting growth journey at the moment, but more importantly, Leonardo and how it plays in that sort of pan-European defence picture is a really, really interesting time. In terms of the digital solutions function, the function that I run on behalf of across the UK, it's been a really interesting journey moving from sort of ICT as was a couple of years ago, very traditional IT function, back office function. And over the last few years, we've invested in that area. We've improved the foundations and the fundamentals through our digital employee experience, so making sure sort of collaboration and productivity tools are where we need them to be. Our digital backbone, ensuring that our various different platforms, our network, our security, and obviously we'll talk about that in some detail in later on the podcast, and certainly our cloud platforms. We're very proud of what we've done on the use of public cloud and how we've been able to exploit that to good intent. And through to really the new areas of digital, so business transformation, a big investment in data and data platforms, and new cloud-based innovation environments as well. So if we talk about a move from sort of ICT to digital solutions, that's a branding change. But in reality, the technologies we're operating in, the people that we've got working on different projects across those various different entities now, operating model of how we operate and how we are perceived is, I believe, completely different from what it was a couple of years ago. So it's been a really interesting journey for me and the function throughout that period. I think the final point you mentioned around cybersecurity is, that threat is really challenging. The attack vector is becoming more sophisticated, and it's certainly something that keeps myself and the CISO up at night on a sort of daily basis, because that threat is certainly not going away. So something we're very, very acute to.
I imagine you're seeing a range of attacks from a range of different threat actors as well, from the lone hacker through hacktivists, through criminals and nation states as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously limited to what we can share on in a sort of public forum. But yeah, it's certainly varied. It's certainly becoming more frequent and more sophisticated, and therefore our ability to respond to that is increasingly important.
So Sam, your part in responding to that threat has been helping to drive the company's move to a zero trust architecture. Could you maybe start by giving us a flavour of what the drivers were for implementing a more modern infrastructure?
Yeah, of course. Being candid, security is at the heart of everything we do. Obviously, the nature of our business is a highly secure enterprise and a highly secure sector. Being candid, the focus on the transition to zero trust was something that kind of naturally happened over time. As Gareth mentioned, as part of the digital enabler strategy, we've pushed away from being traditional IT and moved into start leveraging more modern technologies like cloud and SaaS technologies. And in doing that, it forced a kind of rethink to how we traditionally provided IT services to the enterprise. When I joined the business 5 years ago, we were very traditional in our architecture, very hub and spoke, castle and moat, whatever analogy you'd like to use in our design patterns. So the move to adopt some of these new technologies forced a rethink in the way we provided connectivity and the way we provided access to our business. The transformation was almost driven partly due to an end user experience and connectivity standpoint. And then obviously zero trust was the means to do that securely for an enterprise such as ours.
I know you're still fairly early in your journey. Can you give us a flavour of what you've rolled out already, how far along you are?
Yeah, so we're in pilot stage now. We're starting to get it aggressively into the hands of some of our users. So we've rolled out ZIA, ZPA, and ZDX to the users that enrolled in that pilot, with a view to roll it out to the wider enterprise over the coming weeks. Currently, we have, as I say, a hub and spoke architecture that hairpins all that traffic through a single data center. Goal of this initial phase of transformation is to leverage internet and Zscaler cloud services to deliver access to services more securely and much more effectively for the UK enterprise.
And how's the rollout been so far? Have the users been receptive to it? Have they noticed any change?
For more technical users, it's absolutely night and day. I include myself in that, but I include some of our other colleagues who are on the edge of adopting some of these services. It's been night and day in terms of just general performance, accessing things like 365 and data fabric and some of the 365 services. For other end users who are perhaps not quite so technical, the main takeaway for them has been it enables me to just use my PC as if it was a personal PC. All the security they trust is happening in the background, but it kind of gets out of the way and allows them to do their job in a way that our existing infrastructure perhaps wasn't.
Gareth, has it been a steep learning curve getting up to speed with different architectures and their relative strengths and weaknesses? And how did you go about educating yourself and your peers in the executive suite on what zero trust is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the challenges for any CIO at the moment is there are so many emerging technologies, so vastly different, actually. If you look at what you really need to understand around cloud is different from artificial intelligence, is different from high performance computers, and. So I think the breadth of technologies that you need to be able to be aware of and keep abreast of, and certainly the changing technology is a real challenge for any CIO or CTO in the industry at the moment, and certainly one I relish and I find incredibly interesting. And I think in terms of how you get up to speed, there's a variety of ways of doing that. I think some of the conferences are great. I think there's some great research and advisory partners out there. I think working with the likes of yourselves and Martin to really understand how the technology works is great. And then leveraging and really relying on the good technical resource we have in the organization. People like Sam who really understand it in great depth and being able to understand it. So for me, that's certainly the first step. And then once we get to the stage where I've been convinced it's the right investment to make and it's the right step in our strategy, the question then is how do we inform those that are outside of the technology sector and really ensure everyone understands the value of doing it. We're really fortunate. Our CEO, Roberto Cingolani, spoke at the industrial plan update start of March, so a couple of weeks ago, and talked about a number of key things. He talked about cloud and high performance compute. He talked about the use of AI and data, and he talked about zero trust architecture. So Leonardo is very, very fortunate that at the top of the organization, we've got somebody who really understands some of this, which is fantastic, and that certainly cascades down. For me, it's really in making sure that we can educate the executive on why it's important. So if that's our CFO, what's this going to do to the cost base and how it's going to drive out some cost potentially. If it's our people partners, for example, what's it really going to do from an end user experience point of view? How's it going to improve the employee proposition we're putting forward? If it's our CISO, how's this going to improve our security posture? So I think the key is ensuring that the benefits that this technology, and we'll use zero trust architecture as an example here, but I could say the same for cloud or artificial intelligence or take your pick in terms of the technology, is really understanding how it's going to change in each of those different domains and how we make it real for people. I would say actually some of the material that you've published on the kind of the guides of how to do it properly and some of the get you up to speed material is fantastic. So certainly I've shared some of that with the board because I think there's some great stuff in there as well.
So you mentioned the board there. I want to think then, how do you present this business case for transformation to the board, who are typically a group of people a little more removed from the day-to-day of IT operations? Perhaps it's fair to say that they're technically less experienced, less expert in the realm of technology solutions. Can you maybe talk, and Sam, maybe get your thoughts first on what are the key to building influence and delivering this plan to the board?
Yeah, I think Gareth alluded to it in his previous answer, which is trying to understand when you do a transformation like this, it can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. So I think what we try to do is try to effectively break it down into 4 key themes that would appeal to different stakeholders. We broke that into simplifying technology, so that's takeout opportunities, consolidation opportunities, resilience opportunities from a technical standpoint. Reducing business risk is obviously a key focus for us, and Gareth provided some of his answers. Focus on your sort of CISO and your security stack. The enablement was a key one. What we could provide either externally or internally to our business, what we could enable by investing in a technology such as this. And the main one, and a big focus for me, was the improvement to end user experience and productivity that was driven out of an investment like this. And by sort of theming the different sort of benefits, if you will, you can almost target based on your audience which bit different people are interested in and where your audience's interests lie.
Yeah, I think just to add to it, I think there's an element of trust being built as well. And that if you look at some of the investments we've made over the last few years, and some of the sort of strategic bets we've made, where we said public cloud, for example, is we should absolutely leverage that. We should look to pioneer it within the defense industry. It's going to be game changing for Leonardo, and it has, and that's delivered. And you could argue the same with the data platform. So really, when we're able to say the next one we need to go after is a network transformation, I think there's a level of sort of trust and credibility in there in some of our technology selections, which help. To Sam's point, absolutely important we really understand everyone's challenges or futures. So the challenges may be we want to enhance our cost base, or we want to be able to grow and scale the organization at pace. We may want to improve the employee experience or improve our security posture. They're all kind of current things we want to improve, but also the ability to start delivering data services externally, and how do we do that in a better way is a key part of our growth plan as well. So I think that really sort of feeds in as well.
I'm sure you've both heard it said 1,000 times that cybersecurity or zero trust is a journey and not a destination. Sam, can I get you maybe to walk through some of the recent milestones that you've achieved, and then Gareth, hearing what's on your short, medium, and long-term roadmap for where you go next would give us the what lies ahead view.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, zero trust is absolutely a journey, and not something that even after we've done this initial phase of the project can we say we've fully realised. I think the biggest milestone is, and I guess advice to anybody I would give embarking on this journey, is start with identity. It kind of underpins everything you're doing in this space, and make the paradigm shift from thinking about securing a network to securing users and applications. So, we've started to mature our identity strategy massively, leveraging Microsoft Entra as an identity provider. Now, of course, as we extend into Zscaler, we're starting to transform the way we do application access for those users, starting to get much more granular and much more detailed into connecting a user to an application service, as opposed to placing them on the network and using that traditional architecture. So I guess those are the main milestones we have to date. Of course, we want to go further and achieve more over time and get to a level of micro-segmentation, both inside the network as well as, outside the network.
Gareth, as far as the roadmap goes, what's on your immediate and then medium and longer term vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam's covered really well the elements of zero trust architecture that we're going to look to drive out in the next couple of years. The wider strategy we started in 2022 that was published. It's a 3-year strategy that really finalises this year, and we're on track to deliver that. Throughout this year, we'll be looking at the next turn of the handle, the next iteration of that strategy, launching from 2026. There is absolutely in the network area, we need to demonstrate that we are providing the same user experience for any user, regardless of which division or which role or which corporate centre they sit in. And at the moment, we don't have complete parity across everyone in all different areas of different sites and different divisions, and absolutely very, very keen to do that. We need to make seamless connectivity and ensuring, as Sam said, that any user, any data, any application, we're making sure that connection is as seamless as possible. We also see more exploitation of the investments we've already made. So I mentioned public cloud, fantastic that we pioneered there. Actually, now we want to be completely leading in that field in terms of how we manage it and operate it and build upon it and architect on it. And it's the same with all of these new solutions we're putting in place, including Zscaler. And then finally, artificial intelligence. A lot of the work that we've done around certainly the ethical adoption and the regulation of how we embed those technologies. And I think I'm really excited, both my day job and sort of a personal interest, actually. And it's a technology that is really going to change the landscape, or is really changing the landscape. So how we adopt it in the right way is a key passion for mine as well. So yeah, plenty to go at as we go into the next phase of the strategy.
Gareth, are you seeing a trend towards zero trust across the wider defence industry, or are different companies taking different approaches?
I think different companies are taking different approaches. I mean, the fantastic thing about defence is the grounding in defence and security. There's absolutely the cornerstone of the whole industry, and always has been for very good reason, because if our data is leaked and got into the wrong hands, the damage is very, very significant. And defence has been a fantastic proponent of that for decades and decades and decades. The challenge is, I think, if you look at the flip side of that coin, is that defence has not necessarily been the best of exploiting digital technologies at the cutting edge. I certainly think there's room for improvement. And that's why I come back to public cloud, because I think it's a great example where we're pioneering some of that technology right at the forefront of the industry. So I think for me in the defence industry, it's how do we learn from other domains and other sectors like financial services and pharmaceuticals to really push the envelope of what digital technology can do, but still honouring the reason why we have the defence and security and the parameters that we do for all various good reasons. And actually, I think Zero Trust architecture sits smack bang in the middle of that, of how we ensure we're leveraging technology while still ensuring that we are secure by design.
And can I ask, your customers are obviously equally demanding of security. If you're handling the Ministry of Defence in the UK, for example, if you're handling their information, I imagine they demand the utmost protections. It's the same for governments and militaries around the world that you're dealing with. Does moving to Zero Trust help provide them assurances? Do you think it gives them some sort of assurance that you're taking this seriously and doing everything you can to protect their data?
It absolutely does. And, the MOD's moved from a accreditation, as was in old money, more to a through life secure by design. This really is the focus comes back on industry to demonstrate and be assuring our customer that we are managing the risk and we are ensuring that we are protecting the data in the manner that it should be, and that will be different for different classifications. This Zero Trust architecture absolutely plays into part of how we do that.
And look, we're coming close to the end of our time, so I want to sort of give a little bit of a wrap-up question for each of you. And Sam, perhaps I can start with you. How has the company's culture influenced your leadership style?
My very first job, like a number of techies such as myself, was as a help desk agent when I was a student at university studying computer science. But believe it or not, that's kind of followed me throughout my whole career to date, that concept of looking after the users and thinking of a service, not a server, has kind of followed me throughout my role at Leonardo when I came in as a service analyst as a graduate, when I moved into architecture, then enterprise architecture, now cloud ops after that. I think that experience in service is deep-rooted into the way I think about things. Despite being a techie at heart, I like to think that we've discussed it here. You think of the users, you think of the customer and how they'll perceive the technology changes you're introducing and how they interact with that technology. It's deep-rooted in my approach.
Yeah, it gives you a good appreciation for the problems the user faces and you trying to make life easier and take away the problems for them.
And not everybody's obsessed with this as we are. They want to come and do their job uninterrupted but also safely, and you can appreciate that.
Absolutely. Gareth, what about you from your military days? Perhaps has that influenced your leadership style today?
It absolutely has in a number of areas. I mean, certainly the reason of why we do what we do is really, really important. The product is incredibly important, and that's why I've always stayed in defence, because it's a very tangible outcome. You can see the reason of all the work we put in and why we do it. I still love going to RIAT every year to see the aircraft flying and ultimately understand everything we do plays into that. For me, the military gets a lot of things right, be it my RAF regular career or my Army Reserves, be it some of the people management and that sort of side. And there's various things in leadership style that I've taken from that and brought into my civilian career. The other thing I'd say is, I was chopped as a pilot in 2010. My flying career came to a more abrupt halt than I anticipated. I thought I'd still be flying helicopters today, and yet I'm sat in a very, very different role, which I never foresaw. And at the time, that was, it was incredibly hard. But I think for me, that's gave me a real impetus to have the career I've subsequently gone on to have and take it in a very different direction. So I'm sure there's lots of people out there, maybe in the technology sector or outside the technology sector, whose careers have gone in a maybe slightly different direction than they anticipated. But, it's certainly given me a big kick in the right direction to go on to have the career that I have.
Perfect. Well, look, speaking from my own experience, I've never known what I've been doing from job to job, but it seems to have worked out as often it does. Fate plays its hand, and you end up in interesting roles, working on interesting projects with fantastically interesting people. Listen, we're at the end of our time. I want to thank you both for sharing your time, your perspectives, your expertise, and best of luck with your continued journey towards building a more secure and resilient company. Maybe we could meet again in a year and see where you've got to, what the rollout looks like, and what challenges you faced and how you've overcome them. I think that would bookend this conversation very nicely. Thank you also for everyone for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, feel free to subscribe. And for more information and insights on Zero Trust, please visit revolutionaries.zscaler.com. You can connect with Gareth, Sam, or me on LinkedIn. And if you have feedback that you'd like to share, please feel free to email me directly. It's rsloan@zscaler.com. Many thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.